So yesterday was obviously a huge day for Nintendo fans. We finally don't have to ask the question on when will Nintendo officially acknowledge their plans with their next gen console, because we got that in true Nintendo fashion with a post from Furukawa on social media, or Twitter rather, just coming out and saying this is Furukawa and acknowledging that, yeah, they're going to reveal this thing within the upcoming fiscal year, which of course could mean any time between now and March 2025 for the reveal, not necessarily the launch. However, you probably know with logic and reasoning, and if you keep up with all of the inside reports that we've been talking about on the channel up to this point in time, the outstanding rumor is that once upon a time, this console was planned for a late 2024 launch, specifically targeting the holiday season, and at some point that got shifted to a early 2025 launch. And why would Nintendo come out and share their intentions to reveal this console to us officially if it wasn't in their plans to do it at least sometime soon? We know Nintendo doesn't typically get way ahead of things in terms of announcements. Normally they pretty much tease something and then turn around and acknowledge it pretty quickly afterwards. This is actually the longest confirmation we've ever had for a June upcoming Nintendo Direct, outside of when we knew they were a part of E3. We kind of knew the E3 Direct was going to happen every year, but this time we have official confirmation a month in advance that Nintendo will be holding a Nintendo Direct presentation next month. So a more transparent Nintendo than we've maybe had in the past. But since all of this news broke yesterday, there has been some additional clarification online, one of which having to do with a quote straight from Furukawa's mouth in terms of what we should expect this successor to be. And spoiler alert, it is yet another Switch console, and I don't think that comes as much of a surprise to anyone. But then we also have to break down a couple new leaks or rumors, whatever you want to refer to them as, that have hit the internet from the same source that did originally put out the report that the Nintendo Switch 2 internal delay was a thing. And then a bunch of other outlets corroborated that and ran with it. And you can question this information or not, but I at least want to put it out there because a lot of it is common sense speculation to me. But regardless, it may give us a little bit of extra insight on exactly what to expect with this console, and some game reveal announcements and the timeline around when we should see those announcements take place. So we'll get on the same page with all of these new details. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we have to first start off by hopping over to VGC and reading through their detailed typed up article around Furukawa's specific comments around what this Nintendo Switch successor is as part of the financial call that was ongoing. We will also get an official translation of this call later on, so stay subscribed for that. We'll definitely be covering it when that comes out, if there's any notable things from the Q&A. But you can first see this article, which reads, Nintendo's president reportedly describes its next-gen console as Switch Next Model. Shintaro Furukawa suggests players can expect an evolution of the current gen system. In a message released to coincide with the publication of the company's financial results on Tuesday, Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa confirmed plans to announce the successor to Nintendo Switch during its current fiscal year ending in March 2025. And during Nintendo's earnings call, Furukawa was reportedly asked if the next-gen console is something brand new. Switch Next Model is the appropriate way to describe it, he replied, according to David Gibson, senior research analyst at MST Financial. You can then see the exact tweet in question, which reads, in the results call, when asked if the next-gen console was brand new or ... Furukawa answered, Switch Next Model is the appropriate way to describe it. While official word on the concept for the console may still be some months away, a series of leaks have previously suggested it will represent an evolution of the Switch rather than a revolution in design terms. After development kits for Nintendo's next-gen console were provided to key partner studios, VGC sources claimed last summer that the Switch 2 would be another hybrid system and can be connected to a TV or played as a handheld. It was also recently claimed that the Switch 2 will continue to have Joy-Con controllers, but they'll be larger than the current consoles and will use magnetic suction to connect it rather than the existing sliding rail technology. It has also been claimed the new console will be backwards compatible with physical and digital Switch games too. So that again is more or less information that if you've been keeping up with rumors and reports and leaks online, you're probably not too surprised by any of those claims. And there's definitely some people that were waiting and holding back before putting any kind of hopes in any kind of reports. They wanted to see Nintendo confirm that this console exists first and that they're actually going to be putting some priority on it within a reasonable time frame. And now that we have that confirmation, it is nice to see these reports further backing up and Furukawa's own comments saying, yeah, guys, we're not doing something new, wacky, and totally different. We're not going back to motion-based controls for our primary controller or trying to reinvent the wheel here. They know what kind of power they have have with the Switch and the momentum behind it from a sales perspective. I mean, just look at their forecast of 13.5 million units for this upcoming fiscal year, and that is in its 8th year of sales, which is absolutely insanity. I mean, they're forecasting more than what the entire generation of the Wii U sold in its 8th year. Like, absolutely unprecedented. Doesn't even describe exactly how big of a deal the Switch is from a success standpoint for them. And the interesting point of this comment, if it is translated correctly, which you do have to realize it is not the official translation yet, but this is David Gibson's interpretation of it. But Furukawa answered Switch Next Model, which, you know, really implies that this name Switch is sticking. And I would think that if it's going between the TV and handheld mode, that yeah, the Switch is kind of the iconic brand for that. Just like whenever we had the DS and 3DS, DS was still in both of those titles because dual screen was the technology that Nintendo was marketing for that handheld system. So even though 3DS kind of added in a new distinction that it's a new console, it still had DS in the console name because a dual screen is still at its core. I think that's very much what we're going to see with Switch, and it's going to be Switch Attach or Switch Advance, my personal favorite Super Nintendo Switch, or maybe they just do the obvious, pull a PlayStation and call it Nintendo Switch 2. Anything's on the table for the naming here, but knowing Nintendo, they're probably going to get overly creative with it, and it's going to be something we don't like at first, and then maybe it slowly grows on people. If you remember back when the Switch was announced, everybody thought that was a ridiculous name too, and now we're so used to it, and we obviously love the console that over the course of time, it seems like people have warmed up to it, and I know I definitely have, and now I'm to the point where I don't want Nintendo to ditch that name, especially if it's still a hybrid console. So I think Switch being in the title and it being obviously a more iterative system makes a lot of sense, and it lines up with everything that we've heard about this console so far. So no big surprises on this one. Now, the part 2 of the story that we're talking about today in terms of the leak rumor side of information has to do with an individual that is a reporter within the gaming industry, over 20 years of experience, and you might remember their name is PH Brazil or Brazil Online. That's their user ID on Family Boards. Went around and made a bunch of claims around the delay of Nintendo Switch 2 on a podcast, the internal delay, with sources that they had that confirmed that to them. And then it was like right after that news broke from them that VGC, Eurogamer, Bloomberg, all these outlets, major names in the industry, started to corroborate this report and say that yes, indeed, it was true and we would be seeing a Switch 2 delay. But you also have to remember that this is the same individual that was saying that we would get that April time Nintendo Direct and an Indie World before that. Now, we did see the Indie World take place, but obviously we know that the first Nintendo Direct of the year in 2024 is going to take place in June. So they came out and just owned it in a post, essentially saying that it was probably dated information when they received it, and kind of walked back on the entire claim. But you do have to acknowledge that blemish on their track record, because when you talk about things a little bit too early, not only can plans change, you also call into question your entire credibility as a whole. So take this one with definitely a good grain of salt compared to Furukawa's own comments, but we do have some nice information summarized from a video that he put up on YouTube from Central Leaks over on Twitter. I will have the direct YouTube video that he outlines all of this linked in my description down below, should you want to go check it out for yourself, where he's actually on camera himself, basically going over all of the details that he knows personally about Switch 2 from his various sources. So I'll let you guys be the judge of this one, but you can see the summarized post from Central Leaks, which reads, "New Switch 2 leaks via Brazilian TV PH. This is the same person that originally correctly leaked the internal delay of the console to next year. Switch 2 planned to release on March 2025. Expecting more information about the console in the fall. More remasters will be revealed on June Direct, being planned as the last big Switch-focused Direct. Indie World planned for August. Some third-party games will be confirmed for Switch 2 as early as the second half of this year. Reiterates that Switch 2 will have physical and digital backwards compatibility with OG Switch games." So nothing within that post really sounds too outlandish from what anybody's expecting to take place otherwise. I think there is definitely some people online that are trying to tame their expectations and say that because Nintendo said they're going to announce it within this fiscal year, that they're going to wait like all the way until March to announce it, and then it's not going to come out till 2026 maybe. I've seen a lot of comments saying that, and I definitely am not in that mindset. I mean, there is the slightest possibility that Nintendo doesn't announce it until March and it comes out holiday 2025, but unless if there is a need for another delay, PH Brazil makes it very clear that the sources that he has, at least that he's claiming that he talks to, and he does have verified 20 years in the gaming industry, covering numerous gaming events throughout the years. Obviously, you would logically assume you're going to make some connections with developers and people that you sit down and interview within these gaming gaming companies. Well, he's basically doubling down on the plan is firm. It's his firm date for Nintendo to their developers to have their games ready to go by March 2025. And that really is what I'm expecting. I really think from this point forward, we are going to see a relatively copy and paste approach for Nintendo's next gen console for what they did with Switch 1, because they want to recreate that same type of momentum and success, and it worked out great for them with Switch 1. I'm expecting some type of September timeframe, maybe announcement confirmation, maybe even just the name reveal, and then some kind of October first look trailer, similar to what we saw with Nintendo Switch. Then you fast forward to January, we get a more blowout hands-on event where they detail everything, and March we are actually walking out of game stores with this console in our hands. I definitely think that that's the plan for right now, and that's where I'm leaning towards with all of this information. Backwards compatibility, I was already completely on board with. You've probably known that if you've watched previous videos on the channel, but we had the Ubisoft CEO saying it was a thing, like they're just going to update Sparks of Hope and resell it on the new console because they're able to. Obviously, if there's digital backwards compatibility, you'd assume there's physical as well, because Nintendo still sells roughly half their games physically, even though that did come out in the investors briefing. It's starting to shift towards digital for the first time ever, so that's a scary reality for the future of physical collectors, myself included, but I know it's coming. But more remasters at the next Nintendo Direct, like, yeah, I think that you can put that on anybody's Nintendo bingo card prediction card for this year, and it's probably going to be correct, because we know that outside of maybe Metroid Prime 4, which he also speculates in the video, makes it clear that it's not inside knowledge, but he thinks that could be a holiday 2024 game just because of Nintendo's lineup that he knows about so far, and it's kind of missing that big holiday 2024 game. That's definitely a possibility, but it's clear that outside of maybe a Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo probably has nothing else major that's original in the holster outside of a smaller party game or something like that that they will sell to us. Obviously, NES World Championship should be coming out at any point in time for $30. Like, outside of some smaller stuff, they're probably going to do a lot of remasters and ports and simple projects similar to that of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and maybe even a remake level treatment like what Thousand Year Door is. And that does open the conversation of if this is finally the window for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess to make it over, and we might be making a separate video on that. But regardless of what Nintendo does, I definitely think that all this information is in line and shouldn't come as too much of a surprise for anybody out there. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video what you make of all of this. Is this in line with what you were expecting for next gen Switch console? For Furukawa's comments and then these TH Brazil reports suggesting that, yeah, this is probably going to be the last major Switch focused Direct. It's going to be more remaster focused. We're going to have backwards compatibility, and that March 2025 is the planned launch. Is that where your mindset is at as well, or do you think it's going to be anything drastically different than that? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave the video, regardless of if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell on your way out, and I will see you guys next time.